Hi, my name is Kelly Shepard, and I am giving this tutorial on the CSS measurement units. And for today's example, I've made up this little web page, and I've added this image with a little bit of padding around it. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at some of the CSS units of measure that they have. CSS properties take length values such as width, margin, padding, font size, border, width, and etc. Length is a number followed by a length unit such as 10px, 2em, and etc. A white space cannot appear between the number and the unit when you're writing it out, however. So if the value is 0, the unit can be omitted. Okay, for some CSS properties, negative lengths are allowed. There are two types of length units. There's absolute and regular. The absolute length units are fixed, and a length expressed in any of these will appear as exactly that size. Absolute length units are not recommended for use on screen because screen sizes vary so much. However, they can be used if the output medium is known, such as for a print layout. So let's look at some of the, first of all, we're going to look at the absolute units. And we're going to be putting a border around our image. So I'm going to start it out with a 10. So the first one we're going to look at is centimeters. And as you look at that, let me get this out of the way so you can see it a little better. This is 10 centimeters. That's a pretty big border on there. And now as you look at that, you can see why it wouldn't work on a mobile because it's a set amount of width. Okay, so let's take that off and let's try millimeters. Again, this isn't going to work on a mobile because of it's a set amount and it's not flexible. So let's look, so you can see there's a 10 millimeter border around it. Okay, the next one we're going to try out is inches. And that is basically, let me move this out of the way. And you can see that this is a huge border length from the edge to the picture. Okay, so let's try that. Let's try another one that we can look at. And let's go ahead and let's do pixels. And that's just a nice small 10 pixel border. All right, let's look at another one that's a possibility, which is a point. It's similar to pixels, as you can kind of see. Although pixels, if you look at it, is 1/96th of an inch in this, and a point is 1/77th of an inch. 72nd of an inch. And the next thing we're going to look at is picas. I hope I'm saying that right. And you can see how wide that is. And all of these, again, are absolute. So these are not what you're going to want to use if you are if you don't know the screen size. So for mobile uses and things like that, it's not going to work very well. All right, the next type of units we're going to be looking at is relative lengths. Relative length units specify a length relative to another length property. Relative length units scales better between different rendering of mediums. So we're going to look first at one that we've been using, which is an EM. So that is a 10 EM border around our picture. And now EM is relative to the font size of the element. 2EM means 2 times the size of the current font. All right, so the next one we're going to try is EX. And EX is relative to the X height of the current font. And I guess this one is rarely used, but it is a possibility. And you can see the X height, you would be looking at the top of the smaller letters here. Okay, so, or it might actually be this one, I'm not sure. Anyway, but EX, that's comparable to that. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the next one, which is CH. And CH is relative to the width of the 0 in your text, I'm assuming. Okay, and then the next one is REM. And REM is relative to the font size of the root element. And so let's go ahead and do the next one, which is a VW. And VW, let me move this over so you can see it all the way. VW is relative to 1% of the width of the viewport. So it's going to change up depending on what people are looking at it. So on a phone, it's going to be a much smaller border than, say, my large screen that I'm looking at right now on my personal computer. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the next one, which is VH. And VH is relative to 1% of the height of the viewport. So it's the height of the viewport. And mine is much wider than it is high. So you can see the difference as you look at the difference between VH and VW. Okay, the next one we're going to do is VMIN, V-M-I-N. And VMIN is relative to 1% of the viewport's smaller dimensions. So that's going to be, for my case, because my screen is wide and not as tall, it's going to go with the height again. So it's going to be the same for me as the VH. See how they look the same there? And VM, it's the same. And you can imagine it's going to change because a phone screen is going to be taller than instead of wider. So that makes the difference there. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is Vmax. And Vmax is relative to 1% of the viewer's larger dimension. So you're going to be looking, it's going to be for me the same as my width, 1% of my width instead of my height. But again, on a phone, it's going to be opposite. It's going to probably be the height. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And then the last one is actually a percent. And I actually haven't been able to get that one figured out. So I still have a lot of learning to do. But, so I'm going to challenge you guys to tell me, well, I guess the percent, we've used that, haven't we, when we're preparing things for a screen. We use that it can go up to 100% of things. So anyway, that's kind of what that's my guide, I guess, to the CS units that we have to measure. And we can go, there's many different ways that we can do this. I guess what we have done, I guess what we can look at maybe is we can do width on our top here, and we'll go ahead and we'll do width. We'll go 50%. We'll see if that works. How about that? Oh, look, did you see the change up there? That's when the percentage works, is when you're doing that. The percents. You can see there is the difference between the 50% on the top there and also the 100%. And we could even try out 25%. There's a measuring of that. So that's the screen width of that. And it won't work on the border, but you can do it on the width on a border, but you can do it on a width of like your background color of your H1 properties, or even your paragraph properties. So thanks, and I hope this was helpful to you on this assignment.